All right, how's it going? I recently visited the Desolation Wilderness in Lake Tahoe, Half Dome in Yosemite, and Mount Shasta. I hiked up to the Lake Helen base camp at the top of Mount Shasta. And that was my first chance using the LiteAF Curve 46. You might be thinking that I've got plenty of chances to go backpacking if I've been all these places. In actuality, I've had a really difficult time securing the permit for a lot of these hikes. The America the Beautiful Pass is no longer good enough to get into a lot of the federal parks. You actually have to go on the internet and get on the guest list for the day in order to get into the park, in order to secure your parking spot. So for instance, I went to Fern Canyon in Humboldt after hiking to the top of Shasta, and I drove way out into the woods, and right at the parking lot to Fern Canyon, I got turned away because I didn't go on the internet and pay the $2 to get onto the daily guest list. That's also true for Yosemite. And at Yosemite, not only do you need to get on the internet and be on the guest list for that day in order to get in addition to your America the Beautiful Pass, you also have to request your backpacking itinerary in person. So the popular trailheads like Yosemite Falls and Happy Isles, and at Tuolumne Meadows, they've got glacier lakes. All of those are walk-up only, so you'd have to stay in Sonora for the night, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You'd have to be on the guest list for that day, but you would actually drive through the Yosemite gates before the rangers show up to work. But you would still need to be on the guest list and have your America the Beautiful Pass. And then you would go down to the backcountry office. So then you would go down to the backcountry office and be there by 7 a.m. and beg for your itinerary. If they do let you go on your hike out of Happy Isles or out of Glacier Lakes at Tuolumne Meadows, you then have to sit through a 45-minute class on how to go to the bathroom behind a tree, and then you would still have to shell out money for your backcountry permit. If you don't have a bear canister, you have to rent one from them. And if you want to do Half Dome, you'd have to shell out money for that also. So as a result, the only two hikes that I could find were to summit Mount Shasta or hike the Lost Coast. So Lost Coast and Mount Shasta were the only two hikes I could find The Trinity Alps in Reading is completely closed, and the fine for hiking Trinity Alps is $10,000. So if you get busted backpacking in there, you have to pay a $10,000 fine. So summiting Mount Shasta was the only backpacking trip that I could find for the 4th of July weekend. And that was my first time using the framed out Curve 46. Now, the best way for me to explain what I learned about the 46 hiking up Shasta, Mount Shasta was a really difficult hike, so I did get familiar with the pack on my way up there. The real way that I think would be best to explain what I found about the 46 is to compare it to the 35. So I've got a frameless Curve 35 here, and I've got the framed out Curve 46 as well. So I'm going to show you the 35 and just kind of quickly go over the differences. So with the Curve 35, this is a frameless pack, just like a book bag. And the big difference between the 35 and the 46, or the framed out Curve, is that the framed out Curve with the hip belt has got no wiggle to it at all. It's a very competent, structured pack, whereas the frameless 35 and the 30, it's got a lot of wiggles. So say, for instance, if you're bushwhacking and you wiggle in between some trees, the pack wiggles along behind you. So you can see how the shoulder straps are not framed out. They're not set into place, and they've got all this room. They wiggle. They've got all this room. It kind of flexes around. All right, and there's no hip belt, so the bottom of the pack wiggles as well. So if you're scrambling or bushwhacking, the pack, you're gonna wiggle. You're gonna make your way through the woods wiggling around, and the pack is gonna wiggle behind you to get through there as well. The one advantage of the framed out pack with the hip belt is that you no longer need to think about what you're gonna put in the pack. The hip belt does displace the weight well enough so that the pack doesn't feel like it's gained a lot of weight when you start adding gear. If you put your trekking poles into the side pockets, which adds a pound to the pack, or if you carry a bear canister, which can add 2 pounds to the pack, or if you carry water, you're still gonna be able to carry the pack confidently. The pack just has a really competent, structured feel to it, and it isn't distracting. You don't have to strategize your entire hike around what you're gonna put into your bag. So say, for instance, with the Curve 35, when I would carry water in this frameless pack, I would feel a really obvious ache on my shoulders and on my feet. And I would have to have a strategy about my hike that involved avoiding water carries. So like, say once I got to a water source, I would have to hang out there, drink some water, make my food, etc. And then I didn't carry water from place to place. I would have to kind of plan my whole hike out based around not carrying water. And that whole concept has been remedied by carrying a pack with a hip belt. Another difference between the 35 and the 46 is that I got the UL stretch mesh for the front pocket on the 35, and I got the middleweight mesh for the 46. Now, the difference between the two has more to do with the V-strap on the bottom. With the middleweight mesh, it doesn't stretch, so you need to put your gear in first, and then put whatever you're going to put into your V-strap, whether it's with your Y-strap, whether it's going to be your Evazode or your camping chair, etc. You want to put that in second because you want to maximize your use of this real estate in the front pocket before you start blocking it and obstructing it by putting your chair and whatnot into the bottom Y-strap. With the stretch mesh, it doesn't matter as much. If you were to cover up the bottom part of the front pocket with a stretch mesh, the top of the pocket still stretches a lot, So it's not going to matter. You can still kind of shove your stuff into the top of the pocket, and you have a little bit more freedom about, how to get stuff into this front. So that kind of wraps up the difference between the frameless and the framed out pack. Now, I have officially switched to the framed out pack for now. And what I would say is that there's just a completely different feel with the framed out 46. The back panel itself has got this EVA foam in it and 2 aluminum stays. And as a result, this back panel has a very rectangular shape that's very obvious on your back. It doesn't wiggle at all, and it stays in place as you carry it around with you. So it's like a bullet. It just stays where it is, and wherever you go, it goes. The load lifters really pull the top of the pack into the back of your shoulders, and the hip belt really harnesses it to your hips. Okay, I'm going to put the pack on and just show you what it's involved with taking off the pack and putting the pack back on. I'm going to show you that. All right, so I'm going to pick up the pack with the handle and put it on. All right. Okay. With the shoulder straps, they've got these loops. They're tough straps that don't really slide very easy. You put your fingers through the straps, kind of like on a parachute, and you pull on them like that. All right, same thing with the sternum strap. Stick your fingers through the loops and then pull it like a bow tie. Like that. All right. Now with the hip belt, you're going to loosen up 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and then 3, 4. All right, and then you're going to carefully dial this in. You're going to clip it, and you're going to gently. This is a really strong hip belt, so you're going to gently pull one at a time. Bottom right, bottom left, top right, top left. All right. And you're gonna kind of like ease it into place. The thing grips super tight. With the fanny pack, same thing. You're gonna loosen up the strap, put it on, tighten it up. Pulling these load lifters one at a time. Okay, and now at that point, the pack is completely dialed in, and it's really, you feel it on your back. It feels like a box on your back, and it doesn't move at all.